So guys, if possible, can you turn on your cameras so that it would be a good interaction session?
Guys, just asking you to turn on the camera. Let's just put a face and then we get started so that after that, once we get started, you can keep your cameras off. So
I think it's time to go to home. Like they have completed their college now.
okay,
People are
so most of
traveling.
you are on phone, is it?
Yeah.
Right. No, not a problem. Hair looks good. It's okay. Right. Any more joining?
So yes, we
So,
can start. Like
yep.
probably.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can see the presentation.
Yes, sir, we can see it clearly.
Okay. Okay. I don't know how many of you are familiar with business model canvas. Any of you? These are what, engineering students?
Sir, actually, we most of us have already presented lean business canvas model in the last session with Ajay Batra, sir.
Ah, okay. Okay. So you're familiar with lean business canvas. Okay. Uh,
Yes, sir.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Uh, so what I'm doing here is that this is going to be a little different from the lean business canvas. And how so is something I can uh, I think I felt the need to have a, a little bit of changes. Of course, lean canvas is fine, but as a BMC, I thought there were some components which are essential more from a point of entrepreneur's journey. I thought it was necessary that we capture some of these details which were missing in the business model canvas. So that's how I have put that in. And see, most times business model canvas is uh, is required primarily for an entrepreneur, or in your case as a student, to present your entrepreneurial idea to either your prospective collaborators, even co-founders or employees, or even say if you're pitching for an incubation or an investor, you need to be able to put that together so that they get a comprehensive view of what's your idea and how do you propose to do it. But most times it is presented as something that is for the external view. So what I'm trying to uh, uh, communicate with this effort is that it is just not for an external use. It is, in my opinion, a primary tool for internal consumption. That is for ourselves as a team. So in fact, that's why I will anyway, you will get a copy of the business model canvas that I have put together with some changes. So I urge you to, all of you, to put that together, fill it up from your understanding, and what are missing in the lean canvas that you've previously gone through. Perhaps we will anyway capture that in this session. And what I strongly recommend is that this exercise one has to revisit. In fact, I generally do this for entrepreneurs itself, these sessions. So I urge every entrepreneur to get back to this exercise every 6 months, because things keep changing, right? With every customer interaction, some things change. Sometimes new collaborations come in. Product itself gets a bit transformed into a different segment. Sometimes the collaborator brings a capacity which can help us refocus or reposition the whole thing in entirely different way that we were doing, and even the business model ends up in a evolves a lot more significantly than previously. So revenue models change. So the whole journey of entrepreneur is loaded with iterations. So so a lot of times, when most of these kind of exercises, when people talk about business model canvas, it is positioned in such a way that you need it at the start. I say that you definitely need it at the start, but you actually need it uh, as a part of your iterative journey of building a venture. So in that context, I encourage you to approach it. And yeah, sometimes I may not be looking into the, if you are raising a hand, so so just unmute yourself and stop to ask questions. And if you don't feel comfortable interrupting me, please feel free to note it down, perhaps even drop it as a message, so that we can uh, you could just say that you have a question and we can revisit to get to that question at the Q&A session. So okay, I before I approach business model canvas, I just want to give you a 60,000 feet overview of the necessity of business model canvas. Is essentially the business models itself, and there are various business models. And perhaps, I don't know if you have had an opportunity to look up my profile or any brief about me, that I propagate distributed economy model. So that is why I highlight distributed economy model far more central to the business models. And that's because I believe that future is lot more future will be driven a lot more by the distributed model. And not just I mean, you may be familiar with distributed in the context of blockchain, right? The DLT and decentralized. I don't use decentralized. I talk more in the sense of distributed, but you may be familiar with that context. But I think it is going to be distributed in every sense, even in the way uh, energy will be consumed, even in the way businesses will be done. And I will also try to talk to you about the kind of examples. In fact, even in the manufacturing, distributed is already happening. In fact, there have been already instances and cases, so maybe we will touch upon that as we go through. But is there anything that you don't understand among these models? Then maybe I can take it up. Let me do it that way rather than I try to explain everything. Let's just have questions. What you don't understand in this, maybe I'll talk about it. If everything is good, you understand all this model, just give me a thumbs up. I'll move forward. Having done many online sessions, I also will end up borrowing this Sanskrit term Maunam Sammati Lakshanam, that is, silence is acceptance. So if you don't give me any thumbs up, if you don't communicate, I will assume that you know everything and I'll just move to the next slide then. Should I do that? Okay, I assume that you all are familiar with each of the models.
Sir,
Okay.
We have an idea about most of them,
Okay.
but we might not have in-depth knowledge about each of them. So if you want to shed some light, you may do so. We would learn something more.
Each of them would be for too long. So since you actually got started talking, do you want to pick one of them, any of them, and I could probably.
You can start with the bundling model, I guess.
Oh, bundle is the most familiar thing. Particularly, each of you would be familiar because you all carry mobile phones. Some of you are actually connected to this on mobile. So, most of the, okay, there are messages, chat. Okay, I'll look into it. So, your mobile subscribers bundle many things to you, right? They give you calls, messages, data, and some amount of game access. Today, you get even access to some of the OTT channels. So this is primarily bundling. So whatever fits into it. Idea is that you try to ride some other existing user with a new feature, you ride onto it and get into a bundle pact, right? So that's how OTT guys bundle with the service providers, gaming guys bundle with them. So they work on a revenue share. So this is something telecom as a practice have been doing it for ever since they actually uh, uh, came into existence. So that's about bundling. That's clear, right? I
And
mean,
sir, I have, yeah, that is clear, sir. I have a question regarding this, if you may
please,
allow.
but yep, yep.
How, I mean, why this model is used, or why it is considered effective, or what is the advantage of using this model?
See, advantage is multiple things, right? See, now if you are a bigger player, right? If you are an Airtel, you want to also have all the other OTT guys coming into you just so that your customers don't go into, say, Geo, because Geo gives OTT access, right? So that way you may lose out your customers because if you don't bundle with other guys. And if you are an OTT player, it is good for you to ride with Airtel because Airtel already has a captive user base. They have a monthly subscriber base, so you don't have to sell it to them. You can cut a deal with Airtel that every month per user, give me this percentage. So your customer acquisition becomes easy. So Airtel reaches out and Airtel communicates. So it's a access to the customer network from a service provider. Another side of it is that to retain existing customers, you need to be bringing in more bundles so that the customer feels that they're getting more out of you. So both for a new customer acquisition and retention of your customers, you need these
Customized
bundles.
service can also be one of the aspect, right?
Sorry, come
That
again?
the customer Customized service can also be one of the aspect, that the customer has variety of bundles to choose from
Uh,
according to his needs.
Yeah, yeah. Those offerings are value adds from a point of it, but so those things again is a partner's limitation. I mean, it's subject to partners' capacity, how flexible the partners come in. Uh, so now let's say uh, so Airtel or a Jio, let's say, right, as a mobile service provider, they may not have the flexibility to offer customization of these access to bundling because they operate at a different, there are different layers in which they operate, right, from a customer's user experience point of view. Because so what happens is that at this level, they give you user access, but at a user experience level, if you want to talk about customizing, then you need to have an access to user experience. So user experience is where you get to the next level, like Amazon. So if you have Amazon Fire Stick, Amazon obviously gives you Amazon, but Fire Stick also gives you access to other OTTs. So there they are able to, and which you probably notice that they are giving you different bundles based on your preferences. You actually can stitch it up. So the other
Right.
guys are also giving. So initially it came through some other service providers, like I think uh, Times Internet was selling some OTT packages. So those kind of things have now come into Amazon itself. So the customization of packages demands you to have customers with you so that it is a feature layered on top of a user experience. So there are some things which gets you to the point of user interaction at a UI level and some things which takes it to the next level. So it depends at which level what you do. I don't know. Have I been able to give you clarity on that?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
So next one is retailer model. Retailer is, I'm just going into the chat. Somebody's asked a question there, right? Yes. So retailer is essentially you find retail stores of any of these brands, right? Uh, where Adidas, you have a retail store. So they are typically franchisees who have uh, retail licensed or licensed to sell their products in a retail outlets. So that's how the retail model works. And there are also single brand retail, multi brand retail. So there are various other things. So these things work where what happens is that retailers handle the point of sale aspects of it. That is, it's a physical store in a space in a marketplace where people come. So the licensee has the expense of the store, whatever the rent, physical visibility, but the brand promotion and brand experience comes from the brand owner, if it is Adidas or whatever is the brand. So they will be doing branding, they will be doing marketing. So if they are putting up a advertisement, let's say a hoarding or something, they may even market depending on the locality. Come and see us on this road because that is nearest point to them. So those kind of things. So, but all those things go into the brand part of it. So brands, in fact, today most of these brand companies, not all, majority of them actually they own the brand, they control the design, they control the supply chain, and in fact, they don't even manufacture. They have somebody else to manufacture, and they handle the network, distribution network, retailers, appoint them, and their lot gets delivered from the manufacturer directly to them. And there are some businesses which demands in between distribution network, warehousing and all that, and some actually land directly to them. So that's the retailer model. Razor blade model is actually uh, it's a classic business model. I wish one of you could have come up with one example from your own observation. Anybody want to give it a try? In fact, we even talked about some of the things. I think earlier for Shahid's question, I was talking about it.
Sir, it's similar to bundling, I guess, but in which one component is sold at a discount and the other cost is recovered from other consumable components.
Well, yeah, you're right, but maybe I would put it this way that what happens is that there are multiple things. So razor blade is typically referred to the I don't know how many of you use those kind of razors. I still like to use such a razor where you actually carry those thin blades, put it on top, screw it, and use that. Uh, I think uh, it's the process perhaps some people enjoy. So nothing to do with the effectiveness of the thing. But the whole idea is that you're always wedded to that razor and you need to keep buying the blades. So the similar concept is what I would not put it into bundling aspect, but consumables, what you mentioned. So this is where HP made a killing, right? The printers. So you
Cartridges.
or Canon, yeah, cartridges. So that is a blade model. So you buy a printer once, and in fact, they sell printers for as low as 2,000-3,000 rupees, and the cartridges cost you 1,500-2,000 rupees, and which you
And
perhaps use every month.
and they
So
make sure that no other cartridges work on their
correct, correct.
printer.
And also the most effective razor blade model challenge is that entry points are low. So that is one of the key components of razor blade model. As in when you acquire a customer, you get the customer to come in feeling it's not too expensive, right? That is what it is. I mean, if you make somebody pay a huge price to get into it, then it's not really a razor blade model. In fact, in one other session, someone told me that Apple is a razor blade model. It is not. So if you buy an Apple phone, then every accessory is expensive. But that is true. But at the same time, it is also exclusive. That is also true. But it is not really a razor blade model because at a fundamental level, the access is not cheap, right? You don't start with access at a very low end. They did manage to achieve it in some markets by bundling it through the service provider also where they get it as a part of the subscription fee itself. So there it worked. In India, it obviously not the case. and in India, India is one of the biggest markets for Apple. So it's not really the case, but mostly the accessory part. And another thing is it's not that consumables are there so much for the phone. So that is another thing which fundamentally is against Apple being part of this razor blade model. You don't consume something on a regularity. For a razor blade model, the consumables have to be continuous. I mean, it's not rarely like if something gets spoiled and you use, that is not part of the model. It has to be something you continuously consume, like like printer, like razor, and uh, see, some people have started supplying cold pressed oil. I live in Bangalore, so some people have started cold pressed oil subscription service. So they give you a container with oil. So container gets over, so oil gets refilled, the same container. So it's not exactly that because
But
there
sir,
is no technology.
uh,
Sorry.
how is that a razor blade model? I had the same question, but I guess you were answering that.
Yeah.
How is
So
that a razor model?
well,
Yes.
basically, the consumable is the oil, right? I mean, you keep consuming it.
But
So
it can be
so
replaced with
sorry.
other brands. I'm saying it can be, it essentially the investment uh, is not so much into the product, the cold pressed oil
Correct.
which you're saying.
In there is hardly
It
any
is
investment. The
replaceable.
container pretty much goes with the first lot. But thereafter, see, also cold pressed oil comes with a lot of narrative. It's also the brand story that goes with this, right? That one is that it is close pressed, it's not machine made, it is fresh, it is freshly grounded, and no other chemicals and additives or life extensions for oil or even coloring agents, anything. None of it goes into it. It's pure. So there's purity, health, a lot of those things go in, and that's why you actually pay a premium for it. In fact, many a times it is almost 60% to even 200% high, depending on the brand you want to compare it with. So, so, so on a successive use, it goes there. But from a approach standpoint, it becomes that, and also from a continuity point, right? It is something which keeps getting exhausted and keeps demands refill. So
Like diapers, can we say? Baby
uh,
diapers.
it's not yet sold in that model because there is no first thing that goes home, right? Something.
Right.
So if somebody can come up with, maybe if you get into manufacturing of diapers and separate a casing with the padding, and padding keeps getting replaced, if you can come up with that model, I think that could well be a good razor blade model.
Right. Thank you.
And I think the same thing is repeated again. Any question? There's again a retailer model. Oh, it's the same chap, same person, Yash. So I guess retailers, we've spoken about it. So no other question, right? I'm referring to what's written in the chat.
Sir, what would be a good example of leasing model in terms of retail business?
Uh,
B2C.
well, leasing model. See, uh, I don't know about the retail point of view, but uh, see now, if you're using Uber or Ola, uh, or even auto rickshaws, right? There are people who own these vehicles and they lease it to the drivers for a fixed fee on a daily, weekly, usually daily or weekly basis. They don't give it on monthly basis. So sometimes on a day-to-day basis, at the end of the day, they have to go and pay whatever is the fee, 1,000, 2,000 rupees per day and things like that. And the same model continues. So that's actually a leasing model where they lease a vehicle.
That would be, I guess, if I'm not wrong, please correct me. I guess that would be a B2B. Am I right, sir?
Uh, see, a B2B, B2C, B2D, B2B2C, B2B2G, uh, those are different when you classify broadly from a point of business to business, but technically lease model is where you lease the vehicle, right? You are leasing a vehicle and you're using it. Uh, in fact, in an
Okay,
Indian
then we have
context,
retails also. In retail also, then we have this kind of business where people rent vehicles and stuff.
uh, see, you do have that. In fact, they also attach. See, now a lot of models get overlapped. They also give you on subscription basis, or sometimes you can take credits for one whatever 100 rupees, and you use that 10 rupees. Those cycles are available, right? Like that, you just fill it on the app for 100 rupees, 200 rupees. The similar thing goes with the in a wallet model. So basically, you top up your wallet, and as much as you use, that much gets debited out, or rather
Right.
credited out, and you keep whatever is the debit. So what happens is these are broad models which you go for business, and then you start layering, and most of those things you also overlay. Like when I mentioned retail, I also mentioned that businesses also have a similar approach even from a manufacturing point of view. They don't any longer
Right.
manufacture. There are other people who just manufacture. They are the white label service providers. They just manufacture some. In fact, that is a classic way how uh, what is this that yoga guru from Delhi, right? Baba Ramdev, right? Baba Ramdev's what is that business called? The brand?
Patanjali.
uh, Patanjali, right? So Patanjali managed to launch so many products. Basically, what they did was that they tapped into the manufacturers of all the other brands, right? Who was manufacturing for
Correct.
Colgate or Unilever, Britannia. So all kinds of products what were manufactured for other brands, they tapped into them itself and said, "You become my supplier." So that's how, in a very short span, they could kick off so many brands, so many products in so many segments, because it was all about just contract management for them. They just engage the people who already have the similar manufacturing facility capacity and understanding, because they've been making biscuit for somebody, somebody's making noodles for somebody. So all of it, and for these small businesses who are suppliers, uh, these guys, Patanjali also made it little more flexible. They initially offered, I in fact know some of the suppliers for Patanjali.
Mhm.
They got almost 5-10 paise more than what Unilever was giving, or Britannia was giving, and it amounts to a huge money at the end of it, right? When you the volume is so large, and not
Mhm.
just that they gave a higher price, they also didn't exercise such a stringent quality checks.
Right.
uh, so so they gave, which meant a lot of flexibility to the suppliers. So that way, Patanjali actually contributed to business significantly, because a lot of suppliers made a lot of money out of Patanjali, and also
Mhm.
Patanjali could overnight become few thousand crore company. I mean, not overnight; it's a exaggerated statement, but in a very
Mhm.
short span of time, they became such a big company because they could actually tap into it. They had a retail network, and they tapped into the existing manufacturing network, suppliers to other major companies, and went along with that. So, yeah, Shahid, you're saying something else?
No, I'm completely in sync what you're saying. Absolutely. You were actually telling us about the retailer model and uh, how companies they get generic products and use their own branding and customer base to get into new verticals or launch new products, right?
Right. Yeah. So, uh, this makes it much easier for businesses to grow, and so some of these things is what I borrow in the distributed economy model also. So maybe we'll get to that and talk about it. So few of the things, when you actually start filling up business model canvas, you must have come across customer segments.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
So I hope you understand the need, preference, and characteristics of the customer segment and how do you identify them. If you have done that, we could spend more time on other things. So
In a very generic manner, we know we do not. I mean, if you ask us technical question, maybe we won't be able to
no, no,
answer.
no. You know what? First of all, there is nothing technical about it. Much of it is commonsensical.
Yeah. So
Right?
in that sense, most of us understand the dynamics,
Yeah.
the need.
So yeah, only thing I urge you to pay more attention when you do this exercise for whatever is your business idea, because whole lot of your business model will depend on how do you identify a customer need, how do you identify a customer's preferences, and how do you identify those characteristics which determines the need and preferences. Your
Mhm.
right. So this is very important that you actually sit with your teams and you talk about it and clarify, because many a times, even in our own personal lives, right, it's so easy for us to get mistaken what is a need and what is a want. Need is something which is essential. Want is something I can do with, but I can also do without. Right. So when you do the exercise for customer segmenting, you need to be able to identify what is a need. It's just not a want. Because if it is a want, it is a broader base. You narrow down your customer segment when it becomes a need for this particular portion of the customer. So that is why it is important that you pay sufficient
So
attention.
essentially, so sorry
Yeah.
to cut you in between. Essentially, what I understand is that if it is not a need, then we need to uh, narrow it down to an extent where we make the product or the service a need for a particular group of people. For example, we can take Apple iPhone.
Yeah.
iPhone is not a need, but it has branded itself in such a way that it has become a need for social status or for people who want to, use it for certain. Is that am I right in this? Have I understood it
Well,
correct?
I would say you're partially right. So it's a good example. Let's talk about Apple now. See, Apple as a phone, first of all, people would say it's just a want, it's not a need. But today, the way the world operates, perhaps phone is needed more than a wallet. So it is a need. But do you need an Apple versus something else? Then Apple becomes a want and something else becomes a need. Then what is the need aspect of the Apple? So if you look at today's Apple's advertisements anywhere, so Apple is talking about security. It protects you as an user. So that is, so if you regard your identity to be important, if you regard security of your user data is important, or your user behavior is important, then you need Apple. So that is
Right.
how Apple's need
It's
definition is
projecting
happening.
itself.
Yeah. No, it's
That is
just
how
not a
it's trying.
positioning. It is establishing customer
Yes.
need through that. So you need Apple if you think I did data protection, identity protection is important for me. If I need that, if I need to protect my data and my information, then I need it. Oh, that's not
Mhm.
important. Google is everywhere. I'm on Google. We are all on social media. I've been on Facebook for so long. Then you don't care about data. For you, Apple is just a symbol.
But from an unbiased point of view, sir, we'll also have to analyze whether this Apple is positioning itself this way. But realistically, the market it captures, most part of it, I won't, I mean, whatever I see and judge Apple, that people are not buying iPhone, most of them for the security feature, if it is.
Well, Shahid, point is you started saying unbiased. Okay. And then how you see it. See, first of all, we are all creatures of bias.
Right.
Okay. There's nothing unbiased in this world. Only thing what we need to see is my bias similar to 36 people or 35 people along other than me in this group, is all
Mhm.
our bias similar. So
Makes sense.
so there is nothing unbiased about it. So in that respect, you already put your bias out. So uh, uh,
So Do you agree with my bias or you have a different bias?
No, see, that is what is the every product's demand is to appeal to aspirational value. So, as long as you're able to appeal to aspirational value, you are able to stay relevant. So, it is necessary that every product, I mean, why do you think Samsung comes up with a 1.5 lakh rupee phone? If they are talking about that, I provide anything and everything better than Apple and at a lower cost at one side. And then again, why do you think they are trying to make something more expensive? Because they also want to appeal to the aspirational value of the customer. So if they are not expensive, they'll stand to lose out to some people who don't. So everybody wants to be appealing to it. So it's okay. I mean, that's the challenge of a marketeer as well. That's the challenge of everybody who builds products. See, we building from my company, we building rather we built a security product for wallet. See, our first market entry proposition is about securing your wallet, right? It's a security aspect. But I cannot be staying with the same story forever. I need to be appealing to the aspirational side of my users so that I reach out to a larger consumer base. Because see, people who are driven by security protection are far lesser. I mean, just consider the amount of uh, I mean, anybody who's on Facebook or such, right? I mean, or all the social media where people put up, I think average person who's active on Facebook is supposed to be taking 17 selfies. I read. I don't know what is the logic of it, but they take at least more than a dozen times selfies in a day,
And
right?
and
So
and here I am without a profile photo.
no, but point is that majority of the people actually like to see themselves, like to keep taking pictures, so and keep putting it up on the social media. So given that thing, we are also creatures of gratification, right? We like to be agreed with. We like to be uh, comforted with. We like to see that people, even at the same time, everybody should like us, and everybody should also say that we are unique. I mean, so it's part of the psyche where people want to be unique, different, and want everybody to like them, everybody to appreciate, and also agree. So it's a contradiction that we live, and these are the contradiction of times anyway. And any other question on this? Need, preferences, and characteristics? It's actually a very detailed exercise. In fact, uh, uh, what I suggest is that you guys sit together, talk about each of your product, start breaking down what are the needs, what are the wants, what are the preferences, how do they approach preference for A need versus B need versus C need, and A want versus B want versus C want, and what are the characteristics that determines the A need versus A want in the context of a preference to A need, in the context of preference to A want, right? If you actually do that kind of an exercise, you'll be able to arrive at it. So it's a lot more detailed. Unfortunately, I can only put it in one slide. In fact, we've also spoken a lot more in this context today, so I'm glad. I hope it has been useful.
Really useful, sir. But now at least for myself, I can say that I have a clearer perspective regarding all these things which you mentioned just now. That it shouldn't only be a need, it should also be appealing at the same time. It should have utility, but also you need to make the product appealing and to a larger customer base. So you have to look at it holistically, not just from one point of view, right?
Correct. Correct. And also, don't go with a largest at the starting point. Try to narrow it down to as small uh, point, and then you start widening the circle. Then it becomes much easier. So move forward.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
I think you're familiar with this as well, right? Value proposition.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So see, what is important in this slide is that identifying the differentiators. See, one is that we talk about the value proposition of our product, our service, our solution, and the features. And this is where you extend it to a competitive analysis. So you start mapping who could be the competition at each point and see what could be the differentiator. So don't try to differentiate or identify differentiators for the sake of differentiators. It's very important that you try to identify a marked differentiation. Okay. So what's this? Channels. I think this is another thing I assume all of you, I mean, partly we talked about it, right? But you're all familiar with, correct? So
Yes,
I'll
sir.
take the thumbs up for this as well. Okay. And customer relationships, relations is one other thing which is part of that exercise. Uh, Only thing is in
We are
the
not much.
you
We haven't gone much. We haven't gone into much detail on these
correct.
topics.
Yeah, because in the lean you would have probably gone with only the
Yeah, just
title.
lost the word. Yes.
Yeah. So only thing is that see, most times customer relations are approached from a point where it is after fulfilled is where the customer comes in for the customer relationship. See, that is a very wrong approach. Uh, See, many businesses could afford to do it in the past with that approach because it was always a producer driven, right? As in, you know, I have seen where we had to wait for a phone after booking for few months. We had to wait for a vehicle after booking for few months. Of course, recently we had such a scenario, right, where Mahindra said they have a booking of vehicles for 1 year and 1.5 years and all that. So these are they could actually achieve it because thanks to supplier problem for many other makers from China, you know, a lot of supplies got stuck, which got carried over with the COVID issue and a lot of other issues. But lately, today, pretty much any product that is launched, you have access to it. So you don't really have a chance for you to say that customer will have to wait for it. So, but customer relationship thought process for you as an entrepreneur has to come in from the time you look at acquiring a customer. So that is where this chart is, I mean, this graph is important for you to look at it, that at the acquisition stage, what is the engagement? And at the time of retention, because the retention aspect is where, see, a customer buys a product with whatever the marketing noise that he hears or she gets to understand, you know, from friends, family, or the advertisement, they buy it. And after they buy it, they start feeling that, oh, shucks, I made a mistake. It's not worth it. So that is where retention becomes very easy, where you continue to engage them effectively so that even if they have concerns about the way it is not meeting their expectations are managed better. So retention has to be worked at it. So that is where the engagement, then the service. So a lot of people look at only support is when the product goes bad. So please don't go with that approach. It's not about repairing a product or addressing a customer complaint. Customer, when she is complaining or he is complaining, is only when they actually want to engage the supplier, right? The product again. Many a times they don't even complain, they just junk it and move on. So you actually lose them. So don't approach customer relationship from a point of post fulfillment. It has to be starting with the acquisition stage. So that's the premise to approach this. This you would have covered, right? Revenue streams.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions on this?
we haven't gone through in detail like pricing strategy and all. We just glossed over.
Oh, well, see, I don't think we can get much detail because pricing strategy, there are multiple books are written about pricing itself. How do you arrive at pricing? Uh, so, different products and segments have different thumb rules, so to speak, right? Like if you are manufacturing a product yourself, at a, I'm talking about 30,000 level, so don't take it on the ground. So if you're manufacturing a product, there is a cost of manufacturing. So the cost of manufacturing, again, if you break it down, there is bill of materials, right? At what cost you can acquire each of the components. Then there is a cost of production. Then there is an element of quality checks that needs to be done. Then there is an element of certification that has to go with that, right? And then you add whatever the compliance parts that is required in terms of where it can be uh, legal to sell, right? So you address those things and that becomes your production cost. And then you typically look at that cost to be 1/3 of the price of selling. So usual pricing strategy at a 30,000 feet, I'm telling you, what we do is that if someone says, okay, this is how I consider all these components, and we arrive at, let's say that it takes you 100 rupees at a unit cost, I would say sell it at 300 rupees. That's how a thumb rule for arriving at a pricing strategy for a product that you manufacture. But while you are looking at pricing for each of this solution, strategy, product, or even if you're there's an element of consulting. So there are so many things that you need to stitch into it. So at a high level, we could do this thumb rule. So it becomes very specific to the segment, category, and also the customer demography. Because see, even if you're making a phone, right? I mean, if you're making a phone, if you're an iPhone, your pricing strategy is very different. Likewise with a Samsung, likewise with a Xiaomi, likewise with uh, I don't know, so many other models, right? So brands. So pricing strategies always unique to so many things. It has to be specific to who you want to cater to. So it is not just where I come from, but also who I want to sell it to. And so that is how you arrive at it. So it's actually a far more detailed, but I really urge you to pay sufficient attention. And a lot of this again comes back to this slide, right? What are you catering to? So if you're an Apple and you're catering to the customer need of security, then your pricing strategy has to be significantly high because it is a customer who values his identity far more superior. So then your pricing is not limiting. You actually can price it significantly higher. So so that is where a lot of this exercise, even the revenue model, monetization method, everything drives back to the customer segmentation. So that's why I was stressing so much that spend sufficient time, have complete clarity of who your customer is before you getting down to any of these things. Once you have that, a
So,
lot of this becomes easier. Yeah.
yeah, sir, in recent years, we have seen that many companies such as Geo and even Amazon, many e-commerce sites have gotten into predatory pricing model. Can you just shed some light on it and how do you see it?
See, predatory pricing works if whoever is doing the predatory model is bigger than the competition, right? I mean, if you are a Geo, you have enough bandwidth to sustain 1 year, 2 years of free service where you are able to take the cost, then you can do it. If you, it's just as it sounds, right? It's the simple, what do you call, common sense. I mean, you don't pick a fight with somebody you can't beat. So you know if you are strong enough to stand even after 1.5 years of free service, you can get away with that. Or like how they did it previously. If you're strong enough, even from a point of being able to influence the government to change a policy, then you can get away doing it. If you're strong enough to, uh, sometimes even luck is necessary. Even if however strong you have, people have had bad falls. But uh, predatory is not a thing for any startup to think of, because no startup, unless you are a Geo, which is backed by Reliance Industries, no startup can afford to think of it. But what may be critical to understand as a startup is that uh, if you are disruptive as a product company or a startup, uh, then we could be exposed to predatory from our competition, because the competition may be much bigger, so they may approach or apply the predatory pricing for their products or services, so that could pretty much kill us. But honestly, uh, 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 like I'll tell you, there was a movie in Tamil which came out, which was a pretty big hit. One big production house in Hindi bought the rights and made it into Hindi film. I'm not getting the name. It had Saif Ali Khan and uh, and I mean, it had two guys, right? Two heroes. So so these guys picked up the movie. They remade the movie. The Tamil movie was made at about I think pretty low budget, and they made up uh, total profit was supposed to be 70 crores. In Hindi, 70 crores was the fee paid to Saif Ali Khan. So you could imagine the budget of the movie. And so what happened interestingly is that the Tamil movie had sold the dubbing rights to some digital media company. So the Tamil movie on YouTube could be put in Hindi. So the Bollywood production house, when they bought this right, are you any of you can recall this movie? Uh, it was a it was I in fact I saw both the movies, and Tamil version was way better. Of course, Hindi had a lot of style stylized things in it, but it was
What
almost
was
seen
the
to see
storyline?
this. I'm getting it so much of content we watch. I mean, there was a police guy, and I think Saif plays the police guy, and
Sir
there is
Vikram Vedha.
Vikram Veda, correct? Yeah, that was the movie. So what happened? This digital media company announced that they are making the Hindi version available. They just announced. So now this production house was about to release the movie in theaters, and now these guys were saying that the same Tamil movie with the same actors dubbed in Hindi is going to be available on YouTube. See, this is where a small guy can actually be predatory. So what the big guy did is that big guy paid him, I think they paid him 5 crores or something not to release it for 2 weeks. And this guy had picked up the dubbing rights for something as little as 50 lakhs. So he made a killing. So you can be a small guy and you can still do predatory pricing, but you got to be lucky in scenarios like this.
But we should be more focused on the aspect of surviving the predatory pricing for our product or services, right?
Ideally, yes. See, another thing is that you got to be wary of this predatory pricing. I'll give you one other example. There's one other company I'm working with. So this guy, the entrepreneur, he's hard negotiating with a uh, another company not negotiating. Actually, what he started doing is that he started advertising. He started advertising, comparing his product to the bigger brand and saying that he's able to give them these features at a much lesser price.
Okay.
Okay, and he was meeting me, and he actually showed me this is the kind of ads we are making. We are going to hit them bad. Funnily, he didn't even have the product. He was a licensee of the other company. It was not his own product. And it was such a big risk that principal company actually didn't try to react to anything to what he was doing. They just went over and bought the other smaller guy's license. They just licensed it. That's it. They locked him up for next 2 years that they have taken the license. And they've paid a fixed fee for it because that guy also didn't know how much this guy will ever sell. Because here with him, the deal was that on success. So the bigger guy just paid him upfront saying, we don't know how much he will sell, but I'm giving you upfront money for this. So that guy took it. See, sometimes most entrepreneurs get carried away by aspirations, ambition, and arrogance. You got to be realistic. You got to know your status. And this guy started complaining, he's my friend, how could he go behind my back and all that. But see, that guy had built this product at a cost. And what this guy was offering was a share, revenue share on selling. There was no guarantee that this guy will sell it to that. And for that guy to get that 1 crore, this guy would have had to sell some 10,000 products and no surety that this guy will actually sell because this guy also had other products.
Just selling the future promise.
Yeah, it was a future promise for him. For him, it was immediate money. So you don't pick people and go on to this. So predatory can work in very many ways. So you need to really evaluate where you stand. This is perhaps not there in.
No.
Yeah. So see, this is uh, what you see, right? I mean, you need to map out all the key resources, the key components that make up your business. It's very important that you identify it. So what are the assets? What are the capabilities, resources, partnerships, technology, IP, HR, infrastructure? So each of these things you need to map out. So in this case, I put resource separate, human resource separate, because resources could be so many other things, right? It could be even financial things. Capabilities can be the very experience or industry connects. But what is important is that you slot each of them together. Only one thing I want you to remember, I mean, all this is important. I'll share it if any of you want this whole PPT, I can make it as a PDF and send it out. But what I want to leave with you to take away is that, or maybe I'll first ask you as a question. Are you guys there? I mean,
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
okay. So is asset a good thing to have? A liability bad thing to be? Well, by the
Assets
English,
are
obviously,
good thing,
assets are
yes.
always good, like liabilities
Yeah,
are always bad, right?
right. My
Is that the
intuition.
only understanding? I just want to, uh, uh, I don't want to tell you the story. Problem is, I mean, everything, all my experience comes as a story. So
That's good, sir, because it makes this entire
we
session
don't
more
have time. I see
enjoyable.
that we've already used up half the time and we're still far away from closing it. Uh, anyway, uh, so the understanding is liability is bad, right?
Right.
So maybe a little
Sir,
over.
I think students are interested in your story. Probably if topics are not covered, we can take some time in the open house also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about 12, 13 years back, I was asked to be a CEO of a company which is part of a large group. So I met the chairman, we interacted multiple times, and he said this is a company, and the company had a great history. It was started 20 years ago. They were, they had a lot of big achievements to speak of and all that, and everything. And I asked, so what is the current stage? And he took me, he showed me this is where our office is. It's in central Bangalore, very posh, very nice. The whole office was empty. So I said, where are the team? I mean, no, for the last 2 years, this has not been functional. 1.5 years. I said, okay, so what is the current stand? Current status is, he said, this is about 15 years, 12, 13 years ago. He said, it has a debt of about 5.5 crores. I said, okay. So what's the offer? How do we get started? I knew I could do something about it, and they also believed that I could do something about it. And he said, see, I don't want to hire you as an employee. I want to give you equity in the company. I said, fair, because that's what I also like. So what is on the offer? He said, I'll give you 50% and you run it as a CEO. I said, wonderful. I said, okay, let's do the documentation. I said, I need the company to be debt free, because what I'm signing up is for taking up 2.75 crore debt on my head as a 50% owner. So can we have a show of hands? How many of you would have signed up this deal? It was a very large group. Sumit, okay. Garvit, okay. So why don't you guys unmute and tell why would you sign up? Go on, come on, quickly. It's okay. Nothing right, wrong about it. If it gives you any comfort, I actually said no, but I want to hear why you are saying yes. Come on, just unmute and speak. Don't have to turn on the camera. If you want to turn on, please do. It's good to see your face, but at least speak.
I guess they have realized their mistakes.
It's not a mistake. I think somebody's still got a hand up. It's okay. Is that a mistake?
Hello.
Yeah, somebody's saying something. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm Shashwat.
Yeah. How do you
Well,
take the
in
name?
this
Shashwat Pati. Okay.
Shashwat, yeah.
Yeah.
So in this case, first of all, I'd like to first know like what is the date and why the date has why the company has a date in this case, because it depends like what kind of company I'm working with. So yeah, based on that, I can take the call about even if the company has a date, should I go up with it? In this case as well, I'm considering the fact that it is a company where it is a technology kind of company that has a chance of scaling, but
Well,
due
it was a software company. It was a
okay.
software company. So there was a debt, like I said, and there was a past story, like India has a 5,000 years of history, but wherever the present is, like that.
Okay.
And it was
So
15 years ago, so not the present India. It was the. It's
okay.
not that present India lacks any other thing. I mean, we still have a lot of our own challenges, but that's where it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So based on that, I would uh, even if it has a date, and if I can find that there is a hope of scaling it to a really big group, as well as the company's revenue can be increased, and I have the capability and skills for that. In that case, I can go up even with the debt, because more challenges is better to take on like that.
Wonderful, Shashwat. I appreciate that. Um, well, I actually said no. I said I don't want to be signing up for your debt. Clear up the debt. So the chairman said that it just takes me one call to clear up the debt. But then what I'm going to give you is a company which is of zero value. Today, the debt puts the company at 5.5 crore value. Are you seeing the strength of
Right.
liability?
Got your point, sir.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
I keep telling everywhere that even IIM Bangalore doesn't teach you that. So, we're always, I mean, to be fair to any business school, finance is always taught by finance guys and bankers, and they always say liability is bad. So, but uh, this is what makes a business mind different.
So liability can sometimes also mean, as I say it can also mean that your business has potential, right? And that is the reason people are lending money to you.
Not necessarily. See, when you're a large group, people are giving money to the large group, small company, because they are looking at the large company's assets.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's a large group. Like he said, right? He said all he had to do is one call and the debt is wiped out. Wiped out as in he will just tell them that, I will give you a single payment of 2 crores, write off 3.5. They would have done that. This is how banks work. So
Right.
for him, he would have never had to pay 5.5 crores. But it was actually good to keep 5.5 crores on the books because the value of the company was there as 5.5 crores. If I were to
Right.
go out to market, having taken up that company's CEO and go to market, I could say I have a company which is 5.5 crores worth.
Value.
Versus I have a company which is zero worth. Great history. In the past, it was at one time it was a 100 crore company. But what are you
Mm-hmm.
currently worth? Still 5.5 versus zero. So that was the story. So, so it's very important to understand liability in that sense. So, but do map it out, your key resources. It's very, very important. And even if you, I think today you will, hereafter at least you will see, because I learned it at a much later time. So in student days, I didn't have these kind of options where somebody could tell me their story and I would learn out of it. So see, some of this would have been there on the lean canvas, not all of it, correct?
Only
But
few, I guess. Most
yeah,
of them
but
were not
see,
there.
it's just that it is broken down a little more detail, but overall you understand the key activity in this sense,
Yes,
right?
sir.
In terms of core
Yes.
tasks and process activities, and then create, deliver, capture value. So what is essential is that you need to break down every activity from a point of creating, delivering, and value capturing, because you cannot afford to leave out. See, many a times most companies look at value capturing as a last point, as in what is the profitability of the company. See, value is not just profitability, right? Just the story previously we talked about, even the liability is part of the value,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you need to look at that value is lot more than profit. So
Profit.
maybe another story I'll tell you quickly. Uh, I was engaged by an investor back in 20, 2018. So they wanted to invest in some coffee business. So I started looking at the coffee, what's happening globally and all that. And I'm sure all of you are familiar with Coffee Day, right?
Yes, sir.
So back in 2018, Coffee Day was, this was around same time, around August times in 2018, which is, it's almost now 24, okay, nearly 6 years now. So in 2018, Coffee Day was worth about 830 something $1 million. They had about 2,200 outlets uh, across India, plus another 5 countries with few outlets. And apart from that, Coffee Day had a captive supply coming from ABC. ABC stands for Amalgamated Bean Coffee. That's a company again owned by Siddharth. Siddharth was the founder and owner of Coffee Day. And
Yes.
ABC at that point in time used to own about 13,000 acres, which is huge. They were one of the largest coffee producers in the world. So, right, Coffee Day had captive supply, 2,200 outlets, 5 country presence, and quite established brand, valued at about 850 million, 830, $850 million. Around the same time, there was a startup in coffee business in China called Luckin Coffee. So Luckin was adding one store every 15 or 20 minutes. That is the rate at which they were growing. And they were estimated to touch 2,000 outlets by March of 2019. Okay, and they used to buy coffee from a trading firm in Hong Kong who used to source coffee from around the world for Luckin Coffee. Just before I ask you a question here, a quick backdrop to the coffee consumption behavior is important here. Coffee came to India nearly 350, 400 years ago into South, and much of South India became coffee drinking for nearly 200 years. And Coffee Day in 2018 was 19-year-old company with across India. So most of the North India, which was not a traditional coffee belt, was also getting coffee. So coffee was becoming cool. Coffee shops were becoming cool. See, I don't know. I've been traveling to Delhi for a long time now, right? So maybe 20, 25 years ago, 25 years back, you could literally count in one hand how many places you get coffee apart from 5-star hotels. There are very few places who would offer you coffee. Most places would give you only tea because there were no takers, right? And even then, coffee was pretty bad. So a South Indian like me would not have coffee in Delhi. The last thing you want to drink is coffee in Delhi. That's how bad the coffee was. But coffee was still consumed. And over 20 years, it had picked up. In China, coffee was about 80 years old. Around 2010 or 2011 is when Starbucks went to China. So before that, China for thousands of years has always been a tea country. So China didn't have coffee, and also China was China didn't see 1,000 years of subjugation like India saw. China was occupied only for 90 years in their life, in their history. So they didn't have the enforced coffee, tea cultivation, those kind of things. So China got away with much of it, and as a side effect, they didn't have coffee. So coffee was a new entrant in China, and coffee was also a play of big brands of coffee like Starbucks and a couple of other bigger brands, very few outlets and only in big cities. So most of China was new to coffee. And now, what do you think was the value of Luckin Coffee? Say something. Guess, throw a number, it's okay. You're not given any score for this.
More than CCD, I guess.
It was. Why?
The potential, market potential in China, huge, immense market potential in China.
But the learning curve was not just about learning about coffee. It was about behavior of coffee. See, even today, how many people, I mean, pretty much all of you are living in north of India, right? How
I'm
many
from
how many of you have people in the family who start their day with coffee? Or even have one coffee a day for that matter? Not much, right?
very few years.
So how do you map a potential of a country where people are not even aware of what the coffee is tasting? See, coffee is a matter of habit. See, most of your generation may have grown up watching a coffee shop which is cool to go into, a nice place to be in. So many of you may actually drink coffee. It's not true for your previous generation. So maybe your generation and next generation, coffee is going to be part of your life. But for China, imagine China, Luckin was coming in at the time where it was your parents' generation. So how much would you attribute the value to be? Okay, that is one side of the question. So if the value of this, where coffee dependent on a trader, market is virgin, it may be, but it's not at all easy because it's about changing habits. It's not about wearing a different brand of shirt, right? It's something that goes into it. It has an aroma, it has a body, texture, feel. So there is so much into it when you consume it as a food. So habits don't change that easily. So the value was $4 billion. It's more than 4 times.
Huge.
It's huge. See, what is important to understand here is that how is a value captured? And most important thing here is that more than how value can be justified and argued, I think probably Shahid, they projected that you can look at a half glass or half empty, right? If you're a sales guy, you say a glass is half empty and I will fill it. I mean, I'm just putting it on the other way of putting it, right? So half full would be one way of looking at it, but for you to fill it, you will look at it as half empty, so I can fill it. But the point here is that it is India which didn't actually look at getting a better of the value. We are extremely conservative people. We don't look at value in its true sense and potential in its real sense. See, we have a bigger opportunity in India is you guys, right? Because you have grown up seeing Coffee Day advertisements and cafes and other coffee brands coming in here. So it is more likely that coffee consumption will grow fastest in India more than anywhere else in the world.
But sir, at that point of time, doesn't it factor in that the progress of China and the per capita income of China was much, much more than India? The urbanization was less in India at that moment.
No, I don't think it is as much a factor because see, India also uh, continues to see a faster growth rate in any of it. See, and another thing is that today probably nobody talks about urbanization post-COVID, but maybe in 2018 that may have been a factor, but still it is more to do with our own limited thinking than the true opportunity. Most of our companies, entrepreneurs, undervalue our businesses.
Right.
So this is where the true value is lost. See, they didn't even have one estate, 1 acre of estate. Here, this guy was owning 13,000. It is captive supply.
Sir, the
So
bigger question is why is it so? Why are we not able to see beyond our own
no, I
own
think it
blind?
is our cultural conservative thinking. Somewhere, most of our entrepreneurs, see, Siddhartha, I met him in person. It's very unfortunate that he died. Is one of the best minds I've ever seen. See, he invested in wood back in 2010, 2011 in Africa, hectares of wood. You know, I was wondering why is he doing it? In 2014, I was part of another sustainability organization and went for a meeting in forest department, some meeting to do with wood. And one of the things what was discussed there was that India will have a huge supply issue of softwood. Softwood is what goes into making furnitures, port equipments, right? Or construction, everything we need wood. And wood supply was going to be difficult because India, I don't know how many of you are aware of it, 80% of Indian wood demands are met through import. 80%. We don't grow our own wood. right? This is, I'm talking about 2014. It's actually 10 years ago. So 80% of our wood demand is met through imports. And 80% of our imports back then was coming from Burma, Myanmar.
Mm,
And those days, Myanmar was still having a problem. Aung San Suu Kyi was still
mm,
arrested and living, and I don't know what is the current status. But the point is, army was controlling much of it. And briefly, Aung San Suu Kyi's negotiation had happened. She had come out, and then army had also signed up with the United Nations that they will adhere to international standards. So much of the forest wood they used to randomly chop off and sell it to countries like India and other places. So India was their biggest buyer. So after they signed up with United Nations, in the course of next 4-5 years, they were supposed to stop all this illegal literal destruction
extraction.
of forest in there, which meant, which is good for the earth. But imagine 80% of our supply will perhaps squeeze to 20% coming from there. So India would have
Mm,
had to meet, we still need, right? India is a growing country, everybody furnitures, our spend capacity is increasing, people are earning more. So where do you get the wood from? This guy had invested 4 years before that in Africa. So that is Siddharth. So he could
mm,
see, this is what is a very, very important trait of an entrepreneur. What makes you different is that your ability to see ahead of time, ahead of others. That gives you the success. So Siddharth could actually see that. So that's why he was investing. But we produce great entrepreneurs, but we don't produce people as great in appreciating our own value. We still feel we need to be humble and down to earth. It is one thing to be humble and down to earth, which we always have to feel the ground under our feet. But it's another thing to realize the true value. So which
mm,
we fail to do that. So this is where it's very important that we understand the value and value realization very effectively. Very quickly, there was one other company I was consulting for. They were valued at E&Y for 39 crores. They were not happy with that valuation, but they thought they should be going ahead with that. Then a common friend introduced them to me, and we had some conversations, and they engaged me. We looked at how can we relook at it and all that. So first thing we arrived at was, is it worth selling it? They were also not keen on it. They didn't want to sell. So how do we do things differently? We worked out some things and we arrived at it. We made some changes. I don't come from that background, right? I come from a technology background. This was into producing fashion accessories and all that. So we restructured the whole business, separated the brand. Their brand and marketing business itself got a 90 crore valuation. Their whole production capacity with asset, with asset, the factory land with asset was about 30 crores. So many a times in manufacturing businesses, what we regard as an asset actually becomes your liability. So that actually reduced the value of the company. It was not that E&Y didn't value it right. They actually valued it right. But they valued in the way it was presented, in the way it was operated. It was presented the way it was operated. And they didn't look at it as how else it could be done. They just said that, okay, if this is the way it is done, and this is the value it attracts, which is a fair thing. But what is not fair is for a business person to be undervaluing, because see, somewhere the entrepreneur felt that this is a gross undervalue of his business. But all he came up with is, okay, I don't want to sell, but how do I make it different? So it's very important that we start identifying what is a true asset. So asset by itself is not an asset when it comes down to creating a larger value. See, I'm not a finance guy, so I like to borrow the 18th chapter of Gita. Whatever I say, question everything, don't believe anything I say, right? But these are the experiences I've had. So please take it before you consider anything on that.
Sir, so can we say that real asset is that which creates value?
Sorry, come again?
Can we say that as I understand it, that real asset is that which creates value?
Yes, real estate is always something that creates value. But uh, what is uh, value realization of a real asset is that when we are able to realize a greater value to it. So how do I put it? Uh, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What is the value of Bitcoin? 45 lakhs today? I don't know. I've not checked. Any of you are into crypto?
Beyond our reach, sir.
Huh?
I said it's beyond our reach.
No. You guys have to keep track of it. Nothing is beyond your reach. So first thing you guys should do is that take out that something is out of your reach. Put it in a box and lose that box.
Okay.
Okay. So don't ever think like that. Today you actually can start acquiring Bitcoin even at a 100 rupee value. So, but anyway, so what is a value realization? See, everything has a fixed value. See, the thinking of a real asset in a physical asset form in the manner we think today is because, okay, this at the time of buying has a X value, right? But the day after I buy, the value starts diminishing because it's no longer new. If it is still in the store, it can still be sold for whatever 2000 rupees, right? So the physical asset has a diminishing value. So an IP asset, an intellectual asset, has a exponential value. Yeah. So you always have to look at creating a value that grows.
Right.
Of course, real estate also grows, but then again, sometimes it has a bubble. Like, see, in China, economy is struggling big time today because the real estate bubble is burst. Sometimes I keep thinking, when is the bubble going to burst in India? Because we have reached values so crazy high.
Yeah.
So,
Even the share market, right?
sorry?
Even the stocks, the share market.
Yeah. So, see, a lot of these things get also subject to manipulation, right? People tend to manipulate it. So that is another thing which happens. But what is important is, how do you identify the value? How do you build your business in an asset light manner, right? I'm sure you have heard of asset light, correct?
Yes.
So Amazon is an asset light. They don't produce anything. They sell everything. Uber is an asset light. They don't own any cars, but they drive everybody around everywhere in the world. So asset light is, you don't have to own asset, but you create value tapping into others' assets and even generating value for them.
Got it, sir.
Move to the next slide.
Yes, sir, please.
See, one thing you must have observed in your, what did you say that model you saw?
Lean canvas.
Huh? Lean canvas.
Lean.
Thin canvas, lean canvas. See, there, most times you only talk about competition. There is no collaboration. Do you remember collaboration word mentioned anywhere in lean canvas?
Yes, in terms of marketing and say revenue generation, we talked about collaborations.
Yeah, but there is a lot of reference to competition, right? You need to be focused at competition.
More focus.
See, in a distributed model of working, you don't look at competition. You can collaborate with everybody, including your competition.
Interesting.
So you have to start looking at what can I get out of them and what value can I create for them if we are able to collaborate. So
Any example, sir?
how does that work?
Yes, sir. Any example so that we can understand it better?
We actually spoke about what was that you said? You you remember that Vikram Veda we talked about?
Yes, Vikram Veda.
What was that thing the term you mentioned? The term you mentioned, right?
Term for, sir?
Predatory, right? You said predatory pricing, right? That is when we talked about Vikram Veda, right? See, you can look at a competition from a predatory sense, right? If you are approaching a competition as a predator, he will gobble you or you can gobble him. That is a very archaic way of looking at things. Who gobbles whom? Smarter way of looking at would be what Vikram Veda producers did. That was Reliance Entertainment. They actually just acquired the license, or rather, they actually paid him a fee for 2 weeks. How much will you earn for 2 weeks? I'll pay you money for 2 weeks. So it was a very smart way of containing them. Right. So you actually can collaborate in so many very ways. You don't necessarily have to buy, block, go to court. So tomorrow the same player becomes a party to them. They can also use them for various other things. They can also push their content with him also. They can also look at riding their content into their platform. So many other ways you can you can monetize. So approaching anybody as a competition makes them on guard with you. But if you approach them in a collaborative way, you can always see how do you get your value across.
Right. Better example would be iPhone and Google, sir. Would that fit in?
iPhone and Google have always been collaborating. Yes, likewise with Microsoft and Google. Microsoft and iPhone is actually a better example. Historically, they both started off as competitors. But historically itself, iPhone reached out Microsoft. Microsoft actually refused iPhone. They said that iPhone as an Apple, they refused. They said you're a competition. But later they came around and said, fine, we will build it for Apple. So in fact, Apple originally asked Microsoft to come and build Microsoft Office for Apple. Microsoft refused. They said, you're my competition and that will enhance your sale. I want to stop you. So I'll not give you Microsoft Office. So that led Apple to build a much better tool. So for more than 12 years, I never use MS Office. So people tell me it's very easy and all that. Easy or difficulty is only about using. The moment you start using it, that start becoming more easy for you. That's it. But if you look at it, if you are using an Apple computer, you never hear about a crashing. I don't know if any of your Windows system users have seen
a lot, sir.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Microsoft learned collaboration in a very difficult way. And later on, they turned around and they came back to start collaborating with Apple. And even Apple grew and Microsoft also grew because Microsoft product reached all the Apple users. So Microsoft actually carried forward that collaboration to much greater distance. So today, if you look at it in the software world, most of these guys, as fierce a competitor as they may appear to be, all of them are collaborating extensively. So problem is smaller businesses don't understand. We always like to look at things in black and white. There's no black or white. Everything is gray. So we need to let go of these things and start looking at how do we collaborate. And you can actually do it in so many ways. You can be a supplier, manufacturer. You can also be a distributor, strategic alliance, joint venture, just work on a revenue share, licensing, both ways. So many ways you can do that. So start looking at approaching it. So we talked about previously at this slide, right? Yeah. In a value proposition, you start mapping out a differentiation and competitor, what differentiates you. When you start doing it, use the same chart, add another column and start mapping out how all you can collaborate with them. See, recently during COVID, it happened. In fact, uh, there were some crazy collaborations that happened. I think some manufacturing companies, automotive companies had some capacity to do, uh, you know, some equipment. So in fact, I was involved with some startup in ISC, so working on some oxygen generators. So we needed to work with some of these, and it demanded a very high infrastructure for manufacturing. And some of the automotive companies with those kind of infrastructure had shut shop because anyway nobody was driving around. They didn't have to keep the factory on. The infrastructure and facility was there. So collaborations can come about in things beyond what you traditionally think. So it is possible if you just keep your mind open. You would have probably looked at this as well. Are you there?
Not thoroughly, sir.
Yeah, maybe I'll share this. What I would like you to do is that take up this thing. So you need to broadly look at, what are the broad costs and expenses, break it down into operating expenses, what are the sustained expenses, as in at a regular level, right? I mean, what is the fixed cost, what's the variable cost, what are the overheads, and what can be transferred to your partners, how you can manage effectively with your resources. And today you also have to look at it, what is better to have them as a gig employee, right? As in a contract employee than a full-time resource. So you actually have to break down your cost to criticality and also see how. So today much of the business can be done on a contract management level. Any questions here? So, no? Just look at the slide. Done? Okay. See, a distributed economy as a model has been there. Any of you want to talk about any business that you have come across? I mean, you actually use these products, who use this kind of a model, or broadly employ this model? I'm talking about large brands, in fact. See,
Most of the large brands.
Sorry?
I was saying that most of the large brands have adopted this model to a certain extent. For example, if you take Bajaj fans, I was recently seeing that they don't manufacture it; they get it manufactured from somebody else. They just do the marketing.
Bajaj what? Electrical you're referring to?
Yes, Bajaj Electricals. Yes.
Yeah, that is true. Bajaj Electricals does that, whereas Bajaj Automotive does not do that. Whereas they actually do complete cycle, of course, except the components, they take it from a supplier. So they have these components. 3, 4 is external. In fact, their training is internal, audit is internal, 7 is outside anyway, customer. So they have that. See, most businesses operate like this. Uh, uh, you see, one of the first businesses to do this is like Coca-Cola, right? See, Coca-Cola, every bottling entity is a third party. So complete manufacturing happens outside. Bottle manufactured outside.
Okay.
Shipping partner is outside. Supply chain is outside. So somebody, all they manage here is the branding and marketing. So
Quality
stockist is
management.
outside.
What about the
Selling is,
quality management, quality check?
well, they actually have a third party agencies who does that for them.
That's surprising, actually.
Yeah, no, see, they have quality companies who does that in US. So what happens is many of these guys bring their own partners into India to do the same thing. See, even for that matter, Toyota, right? See, Toyota uh, actually brought all their supplier base here. Uh,
Yes.
uh, well, fundamentally, they said that India does not have any quality supply base. That was nearly after 15 years of Suzuki being in India. So much of the Maruti Suzuki suppliers were rejected because of their quality standards. Toyota said that none of them meet our quality standards. So unfortunately, what Suzuki did in India was just fool us than create any real capacity. What Toyota actually did was far greater in that sense. So Toyota actually built capacity. After Toyota came in, all the small businesses who were supplying components, their quality standards went very high. So because of Toyota, many other manufacturing companies could come into here, BMW, Ford, any of them. If all of those guys were to come in with only Suzuki supplier base, none of them would have actually set up shop here. Or the rules would have had to be different. So distributed model works, but at the same time, capacity building is something that needs to be brought in, and that has to be approached in a very different way. So Toyota did it differently. They actually brought in their whole ecosystem. Unfortunately, whatever the government of India's vision and plan of partnering with Suzuki, first of all, Suzuki ended up to be a bad partner, right? They were a most unreliable company, most unreliable product. And I mean, you can think of it. Somebody selling a car saying every 1 kilometer you have a mechanic to repair your car. I mean, who wants to buy a car which can break down every 1 kilometer? But we do. We Indians wanted it. So,
We want actually better mileage.
uh, see, mileage is one part of it, but it was not really just sold as a better mileage. It was also sold, I don't know, you may not recall, initially Maruti Suzuki advertisements were all about there's a mechanic every kilometer for you to repair your car. So, because the Maruti car were that poor designs that it demanded so much of thing. So, anyway, I mean, I actually wrote an article about that as what a big mistake to have a company like Suzuki to be partnered with India and what they have done. So you can look it up on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, or I think it is there in Medium. So uh, it's very unfortunate. They did very filmy style of hurting India. So coming back to this, this is a similar slide to the previous slide, but only thing is extending the value transition here. So where I'm leading to is that I'm fully convinced that the distributed model can make it a lot easy to adopt a tokenization of businesses. So I also believe that businesses, the way businesses are done will change. So if you fundamentally look at it, that you you don't even have to have somebody even as a uh, 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 see current value creation is that, see, everybody gets a fee, right? I mean, each of these 7 stakeholders, they all get their value. So what is the value for the customer? Customer's value takeaway is the quality product, right? With quality service and quality fulfillment of whatever promises. So likewise, the audit agency gets its fee for it, training agency gets its fee for it. The micro entrepreneur, basically a supplier at a micro level, gets their pay for whatever they build. Component makers get paid for whatever they build. Manufacturer gets paid for whatever they build, and the entrepreneur or the institution, organization who owns the brand, IP, design, they stand to gain whatever they gain. So why is it important that we actually map all these things and also see that how is distributed economy model different from the traditional model where you work for a fee versus you work for a value? Are you able to get what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So in this model, apart from whatever is the fee that one gets paid, right, in those dollars, they also get a share of the value. So in this context, what happens is in a tokenized economy, this very stock market model will change. See, in the context of stock market, what happens is that uh, who are the players in the stock market? Let's see. Who are the biggest beneficiaries of stock market today?
Beneficiaries, the companies which are listed in the stock market.
Well,
Or
actually, biggest beneficiaries remain financial institutions.
true, because
Right.
they charge for every transaction.
No, not just that they charge for every transaction. See, they come in to hold an equity at a time where the company needs money, because of which they take up a significant value of the company. And they can set the value of the company based on when they exit, the moment they move out, value drops. When the value drops, they again come in. So they actually play only by the value of it. They don't contribute to building or sustaining of the organization.
Right.
So this is where the traditional model is lopsided. This is where the stock market is can be so manipulated by people who don't contribute. See, they don't manufacture, they don't sell, they don't supply, they don't create any jobs, they don't ensure the quality even of the resources by training or quality in terms of process and check, or even be a customer for that matter. But they only are party to the profit.
So
So this is
essentially, can we say that the banks share the profits or the benefits, but they do not partner any risk or losses. But rather, in a distributed model, all the components share the profit and also undertake the risk. They also carry the risk.
See, all the stakeholders are party to the risk, right? Even as financial institutions are party to the risk to the extent to which they are exposed at their entry points. But point is that they operate beyond their entry point only for financial gain on trading on the value of the stakes. So that is a point in which they are not comparable to the rest of the stakeholders. So that is where a distributed model actually enhances the whole value proposition, wherein stakeholders need not be owners and owner gets it. See, I think we have 6 minutes. I can tell you one story and close it and continue in the next session.
Please go ahead, sir.
So, okay, I'll stop the presentation. I'll just so see Infosys. Infosys is a company who changed the way people look at value creation for founders, promoters, and even employees. See, I don't know how much you're aware of it, that Infosys is one of the first companies who gave stocks and options to their employee to the last mile, as in even including their office boys and drivers got stock options.
Right, sir.
And so much so that they also became millionaires, crorepati's. And it was possible to do because founders, see, that is a greatness. I think what Narayan Murthy managed to earn his place in history by driving that as a leader of the business in making sure that everybody gets it. But not to take away the credit that all co-founders equally needs to get the thing, because when they did this, Narayan Murthy was the chairman. The founding chairman was N.S. Raghavan. So, but he was also the shareholder. But anyway, when this was done, Narayan Murthy was the chairman, and that is why Narayan Murthy gets a lot of credit. But what Infosys did was that shared it with every employee, which made every employee a crorepati. But they were not even $1 billion company then. Okay. I don't know. I don't remember how many employees they had, but they were few $100 million company. I'm just trying to give you a context. See, today, I don't know, they are valued about 24 billion. Can anybody check quickly what is the value of Infosys? Okay. A market cap, right? What's the market cap of Infosys? 88 billion. Wow. This was as of August 2024. Okay. $84 billion. They have nearly 3 lakh employees. Anybody want to guess how many employees have stock options in Infosys? Oh, already half the people have left. We've crossed time. Do you want to take it up
Sir,
next session?
nearly
Sorry?
nearly 60% of the employees.
No. 3 lakh employees, 8,000 people have stocks. What is the percentage? Less than 3%. At $84 billion valuation, less than 3% people have stocks. At a less than a $1 billion valuation, nearly 100% employees had benefits. Founders can share value because when you create, you're happy to share. When you don't create, you don't like to share. So tokenization can ensure founders remain owners. Let's try talking about it in the next session and enjoy your day, whatever is left, evening.
The session was great, sir. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
So tomorrow, right? Same 5 p.m.
Yes, yes, yes.
So we'll complete whatever's left and
We can take.
one last thing.
One last question, sir.
Yeah.
Do we have any assignments for tomorrow? Like you said that we have to prepare the business model, right?
Yeah.
If that is
Yeah,
so,
I
please
think I'll
share
share
it.
it with Pratham. Pratham will possibly forward it to all of you.
Yes,
Idea
yes,
is that you guys try filling up the business model canvas, and
yes.
wherever you have a doubt what goes into it, I think we've tried covering a lot of these things today, but I guess I don't know. I guess I spent a lot of time telling different stories, but hopefully useful. So
Sir, I couldn't find your number though. Please mail me if possible.
it's also in my mail signature. Wait, I'll just.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh yeah, you take feedback. Yeah, please do share whatever good, bad, ugly feedbacks. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And
Yep. Thanks.
yeah,
Take
thank
care.
you. Good
See you
Bye.
night,
tomorrow,
sir.
sir. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Take care. Bye bye.
And Shahid, particularly, thank you. You made it interactive. I didn't feel that I'm just talking to blank screen. So thank you for that. I appreciate
No,
it.
actually, just the stories. Thank you for the appreciation, sir. But your stories were so engaging that I couldn't hold up.
That to
Thanks.
mention, like Shahid is like rockstar of all the workshops. He's like active all for all the workshops.
No, that's good. Actually, it makes it easy for us too.
Yeah,
Otherwise, sometimes you don't know whether people are there, not there.
yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Bye.